Hi, my name is John, and I was mired in a pornography addiction that started when I was 12 years old. My addiction started in a drugstore while waiting on a bus on a cold winter day. I was looking over the newsstand, and at that time, we're talking 1960, I looked on the stand, and the typical things that you would find there were Life and Look and Popular Mechanics, but right next to those magazines was something I hadn't seen before, and it was a Playboy magazine. The magazine contained pictures that I had never seen before that turned on chemicals in my body that basically took whatever innocence I had at that point in time. Not long after that, a friend of mine invited me over to his house, and he said, "You want to go in the basement and see this stash of magazines that my dad has, and they are Playboys." We went down there, and it was unbelievable, and I think that it would boggle the mind of countless numbers of porn-addicted fathers to know how many of their own sons that they had unwittingly drugged down into that same trench where they live. My father subscribed to a magazine called Esquire. At the time, there was a term that purely for the editorial content, but I'm sure there were other motivations there. When those magazines were discarded, I would retrieve them from the trash and clip out the pictures of the girls in there, and that's where my collecting started. I would take them into the bathroom and lock the door and act out in there. And over time, my collection grew. I carried my collection into my marriage, and like my predecessors, it was stashed in the basement. And again, I would use it to medicate times that I wanted to make love and my wife didn't. I would medicate with the porn to get rid of the feelings of rejection. I was going to church at the time. I was not saved, and I was putting up the act. My wife was in the choir, and actually I may have even been singing in the choir, but like a lot of folks, I was in church, but I didn't know Jesus. I had never been told about the relational aspect of being a Christian. I thought it was just all about acting it out. I heard about this Promise Keepers event from a friend who had been about a month before this, and I conned a couple of three guys from church into going down to Knoxville to the conference. It just sounded like something that was good. They sent me a CD in the mail, and the contemporary Christian music that was on that just really perked my ears. I had never heard Christian music put with a beat and drums and things like that, and it was just wonderful. I was sitting down there pretty much paying attention to the music and enjoying the speakers Friday evening when a man named Mike Silva got up to talk. He told a story of when Jesus had been teaching in a house, and the house was just full of people. There was a sick man who had some friends, and they had taken him to see Jesus, and they couldn't get through the door, so they hoisted this poor crippled guy up onto the roof and then scratched a hole in the roof of this house and lowered him down in front of Jesus. And when Silva gave the invitation, I got this visual of my friends who were Christians that had brought me to Knoxville and had lowered me down in front of Jesus. He talked about the relational things, that Jesus wants a relationship, he doesn't want religion. And when he gave the call, I was out of my seat like a rocket. And with probably 200 other rain-soaked sinners, in the end zone in Neyland Stadium, I gave my soul to Jesus. And it's been a very interesting ride ever since. I got back that Sunday, and Monday morning, my whole collection, videos, everything, was in the trash can on the curb, and they went away. This was the dawn of the internet age, and several years after that, I got hooked on computer porn. It was easy, it was cheap, and at that point in time, it was easy to hide. The computer was in the basement, and I would spend time down there through the day, going from one site to another and checking things out. Eventually, I was caught not only by my wife on 2 or 3 occasions, but by my son. And I had to confess to both of them what I was doing. Extremely painful. They put blockers on the computer that eventually I was able to work around. It was an addiction at that time. I would have never used that term, but that's exactly what it was. I couldn't lay it down and I couldn't fix it myself. And it continued. I'd have 3 or 4 years of sobriety and make all of the apologies and tearful I'm sorries, and I think what I was sorry about was that I had been caught, and not that I was wrecking my family and my marriage. The last time that I got busted, my wife had received an email from our computer monitor that I had been on some unsavory sites again. She confronted me with the email and left and went to work. That evening, she told me of a lady at work whose husband was also suffering from pornography addiction. She said that he had been to a recovery ministry and that it was helping him immensely, and told me that I should get together with him. I made the call, and the next night he was sitting at our supper table. He told me about what he'd been through and was very frank about it. I started going to the ministry, quite truthfully, more to get my wife off my back and placate her than for actual healing. It's kind of a shameful thing to say, but it's the truth. The major change came in my life when I was going through a step study, and I realized that the purpose of my going to the recovery ministry was not to be able to white knuckle my way through all the erotic stimulation that was in the world, but it was to learn to be more obedient to God. And if I was able to be more obedient to God, then everything else would fall into line. So my whole recovery hinged upon changing my focus from directly on the porn issues to the obedience issues with God, and that was a major turning point. Throughout my life, the basement has represented a place of shame, a place of self-indulgence, a place that was all about me. And it's just a very good thought for me to be able to sit here today and realize that in this basement, God has redeemed this space, and He has taken the smut out of here. And in its place, He's provided a craft, a way that I can share the talents that He has given me, not only in making music, but making music instruments And over the years, he's taken it to a point that I'm able to take this craft out of the basement and take it off to places and share it with people, and also share what he has done in my life with those same people. The hold that Satan had on me is totally gone, and it's through Christ. The thing that I've had to come to grips with in this whole thing that was, I think, ingrained into me as I was growing up is if you can't fix it, you're not really a man. Well, I couldn't fix this, but I'm no less of a man for it. Once I realized that only Jesus could fix it was the beginning of my healing. And the term healing is not to be diminished. It wasn't a quick thing. The healing takes a while. I spent 40-some years digging this wound and pouring salt on this same old wound, and it's taken a while to heal, but today I'm free, and I thank Jesus for it.